time to review all of the books that I read in January, so let's get into it. So it seems like most Januaries come around and I end up reading the Christmassy romances that I plan to read in December, but they get pushed off because it's such a crazy month. And then I end up reading them in January. So that's what happened again this year. The first one I read was Once Upon a December by Amy Reichert. And it was a really unique concept. I loved the magical realism element in it. What it's about is the Christmas market is like a magical traveling market, and it kind of exists outside of time. And so there's this guy, Jack, I think his name's Jack, and he is in the market. He's a baker, and his family owns the bakery within it. And he spots this girl one Christmas, and he kind of like has insta love, like love at first sight for her, but he doesn't get her name, but he like looks forward to seeing her every time he's back where she always comes to the market, which is Milwaukee. So he always looks forward to seeing her, and he does, and we get kind of like flashbacks to past times that he's met her, and we also follow along on her side too, so it's dual point of view. So it's dual point. So it's a dual P. Why can't I say that word? It's a dual POV. It's a dual POV, so we follow along on Jack and, what is her name? I can't remember her name now. What is her name? So we get to follow along on Jack's story and also Astra, who is the main female character. She is recently divorced and has some like trauma associated with that. Their romance was just really sweet, and it was a closed door romance, which I appreciate. They're trying to like overcome the obstacle of how they can be together because he kind of like exists outside of time. He doesn't like age as quickly as us normal folk. And she is also trying to figure out like maybe she can live there. She's not sure. She doesn't want to leave the friends that she just rekindled their relationship. So yeah, it's definitely a really, really fun and unique Christmas romance. So next up, I read Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison. And this one's been on my radar for a while, but I guess I just kind of like never really got around to reading it because I feel like the time frame for reading Christmas stories is pretty short, and there's always so many to choose from. So it just kind of got pushed aside a lot of the years. But I finally got around to reading it. I'm glad that I did. It's about this girl who has bought a Christmas tree farm, and she has applied to be in a contest that's like put on by an influencer. And she sort of kind of lies in the application and says that she owns it with her boyfriend to kind of make it seem more romantic and appealing for the influencer to come and visit her farm. So she asks her best friend Luca to pretend to be her boyfriend. So it's got fake dating in there. It's got close proximity because he ends up coming and like living on the farm with her to kind of like make it seem real, to like solidify their lie. So she's pretending to date her best friend, and she thinks he has no interest in her, but you kind of pick up on the fact like pretty quickly that he does. Just, I mean, their relationship is so flirty, and he's like totally giving it back to her. So I wasn't fully invested in the whole idea of the plot, but I did think their romance was really cute and their friendship was sweet as well. It always helps when you're friends first. So yeah, I liked that. And the cast of characters in town were really cool, and I could kind of tell, which I knew going into it that it was a series, but I could tell how the author was setting up for other characters in the town to have their own storyline. It felt a little bit like a Hallmark movie too, which was cute. So yeah, that was Love Light Farms. So the next series of books that I started was the Bridgerton series. I've watched the show. I'm all caught up on that. And I just had like an interest in what the original source material was for the show. So I started The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, and this follows hair. So this, what is this hair doing? Stay. This story follows Simon and Daphne. Daphne's just come out for her season of finding a husband, essentially, and she meets Simon, who is the new like Duke of Hastings after his father dies. Simon has a pretty bad relationship with his dad, and he doesn't want to even be called the Duke of Hastings since his father carried that title, but he is set on not continuing his family line because of his hatred for his father. Enter Daphne and her family. We get introduced to the whole Bridgerton clan, which is fun. I love their family dynamic, and their banter is just really funny. It's sarcastic. It's like dry British humor. Daphne is out on the scene. She's on the market, and she is trying to find a husband, and her brother has got her kind of sorted out with this one dude. I can't remember his name. He doesn't like the guy. Anthony's like, I've already worked it out, so you kind of need to marry him. And she doesn't want to. She and Simon meet, and they kind of start a like fake courting relationship to kind of fool everyone and get them off their tracks, because Simon doesn't want to get married or have any children, and Daphne just wants to not be attached to this other guy that her brother has set up for her. So they're fake courting, and you know, they both start to catch feels. It does eventually get into like open door scenes, but disclaimer, I skip open door scenes. I can't really say how spicy it is, but there is spice, and Daphne's kind of like getting taught about the birds and the bees, which was interesting. Shenanigans ensue, and they end up getting together. So that is the first book. Then I read the second installment, which was The Viscount Who Loved Me, and this follows Anthony, the eldest Bridgerton brother, and a new character, Kate Sheffield, and her sister Edwina. Kate and Edwina are new on the scene. They don't come from a lot of money, so they could only afford to come to London's like season once. So they've waited till Edwina has come to age, and Kate's kind of older, so she's a bit late to the scene. Actually, they're just focusing on Edwina's relationship. Kate is totally okay with like being a spinster her whole life. Anthony's actually first like kind of interested in Edwina, but if you've seen the show, you know that he does end up with Kate after some things happen and they grow close. Again, the banter is really great. Anthony has like such a sharp tongue, and he's pretty funny and sarcastic. I really liked him in the books, I think, more than the show. And I can't help but compare the show and the books because I saw the show first, and that is who I picture like when I'm reading them as well. But I don't know, I just liked Anthony more in the books. Second season of Bridgerton wasn't like my favorite season, so the books kind of redeemed him and that storyline for me. So those are the 4 books that I got to in January. It comes out to about a book a week, so that's pretty good. I am a mom and I do work. Being that December, I really didn't read a whole lot. I felt like I made up for it in January. So now let's get into what I'm looking forward to reading most for February. I tend to, once again, turn to romances for February just because Valentine's Day. So I think that I will probably dive more into the Bridgerton series. I've already started the 3rd one, which is I think about Benedict. And I don't know, I think I might continue the Love Light Farms series as well. for more romance books. And I don't know, I'm feeling also like I want to get into fantasy of some kind. So I actually have the Emily Wilde's third book. I've pre-ordered that, so that should be coming soon. I'll probably read that. So that's 3 books that I definitely could read. And I'm a mood reader, so anything else that, you know, strikes my fancy, I will get into, and we'll talk about it next month. I would love to hear what you're reading for February and what your favorites were out of January, so comment down below, and I'll see you next time.